welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I am Richard Carlton. Welcome to fmtrain.tv. Today is Tuesday, March 12th, thereabouts. And if you're watching this on a recording or live, we have an awesome show for you today. Before we get into that, let's cover the upcoming broadcast schedule. So I'm going to press the button right here. If you go to fmtraining.tv and you type it correctly, you get this website right here. And so down here on the left tab should be the automatic tab. This is real FileMaker data. It comes out of a FileMaker database through the data API. We eat our own dog food here. I need like little dogs that chirp away and bark in the background. So today is going to be Wolfpack action. And so whatever Wolfpack action means to you, it's the ongoing collection of add-ons that Christian Olson kind of babysits and manages. And so we've got a couple updates in it, I think. And I don't know about Christian, but probably you want to spend like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, Christian, up front, updating kind of what's in this thing. And then because the big focus is on Jonathan's AI add-on, I guess, right? So Christian, if you want to just spend a minute or two covering if any other add-ons were tweaked or updated. Moving along to today's live stream. So Christian Olson is very senior-y kind of engineer. He does amazing things. Sometimes when you want to be amazing, you don't really actually do the coding. You just like coordinate and collaborate with all the people around you who are doing amazing things. So that's kind of what today's about. We have an add-on that's created by this other dude who showed up today. And the dude says like, dude, I'd like to show your thing. He's like, dude, no way. Like, dude, yeah, sounds great. So that's what today's about. It's Wolfpack 11. So Christian, you want to walk us through, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. You want to walk us through the basic stuff of Wolfpack?
Yeah, so today is actually the 11th release of Wolfpack, and there's not really any big changes to the product itself. The next release, I'm probably going to be working on some changes. There's been some conversations with Jonathan, who's joining us today, and Fabrice from FM Cloud, or One More Thing on security. And so the conversation I've had with some authors is, hey, is there anything in here to protect the add-ons if an author wants it protected? And then even something that I had never really considered, which is that add-ons could be used as a vessel to bring in malicious code. So what can we do in the add-on community to protect against this? So nothing in this release. This release really orients around Jonathan and I, who have met at a couple FileMaker events. And Jonathan was talking about turning some of the cool stuff that they had at Engage into add-ons, and also an add-on that he had himself. So I wanted to give a little introduction to Jonathan as well. I mean, he's quite a talented developer. He's the founder of Acolyte Applications. He works with nonprofits. He wanted me to share that he saved some of those nonprofits somewhere in the range of $1.5 million in development and $30,000 in hosting. So today is really focused on 2 add-ons that I was able to coerce Jonathan to bring.
You want to
Wolfpack.
show your screen and show the website for that? How do we get to this? How do we even, if you want to go to the Wolfpack website, or I guess we could do it on this end. I mean, I
have Wolfpack pulled up on my screen, but I didn't.
Yeah, but let's just. So yes. let me go to the. Is it RCC Wolfpack, or is it? Because I don't want to go to a not safe for Wolfpack.
I want to say it's fmwolfpack.com. Let me see.
Because if it goes to an unsavory website,
fmwolfpack.com will bring you there.
Okay, because if I go,
you can also get there from our marketplace. So if you Google Starting Point and go to our marketplace, it's on there.
Yeah. And so then we've got the Wolfpack Add-on Manager for the FileMaker. This is how you go and get it. So yeah, so if you go here to this download, you're going to get the current version of the Wolfpack, which is Wolfpack 11, okay? All right, so this is the website you go to, fmwolfpack.com. So Christian, go ahead and you and Jonathan, are you there? And walk us through what you're doing. Show us your screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then so you work with mostly nonprofits? That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the majority of our time is spent with nonprofits and just helping them reorganize and streamline their workflows for whatever it might be. Just like any company, they're often doing something that's unique in the world, and they need unique software to do that. So we utilize the Claris platform to kind of make those things happen.
FileMaker is so good at that, creating custom applications. It's so awesome for that. It's really quite good. All right, well, I'm going to step away and let Margaret take this over. I'm going to work on Claris Studio, so you guys can work on this, okay? Yes?
Absolutely.
Jonathan, how long have you been working with FileMaker?
So I'm coming up on 10 years this year, actually. So hitting a
Wow.
decade. Um, and yeah, I don't know how long I've been a good developer. That's kind of I might not have be quite up to 10 years on that, but I think I'm getting there. So maybe 10 more years, I'll be able to claim that title as my own. But we'll see. So um, I'm happy to just dive right in if you'd like.
Yeah,
And
why don't you tell us a little bit about these add-ons, and then it'd be great to
yeah.
walk us through the install, show us how to use it. And for our viewers out there, by all means, please do chime in with questions. We're going to try to briskly go through the first one here, only in the interest of time, but that doesn't mean that we can't come back and dive into more detail. We suspect that there's going to be a lot of interest on the second one, but the first one is still really cool. I'm very well going to actually be using this myself. So, Jonathan, the floor is yours. I'm going to try not to interrupt you too much.
All right. Well, feel free to if you have any questions. So yeah, we're looking at two add-ons today. The second, as maybe a lot of you know, is the natural language search add-on that utilizes some AI for searching dynamically in your file. But before we get there, we will do a little bit more boring one in the send via Gmail. So this is fixing a problem that has actually already been fixed by Claris himself, and that's via the send email script step. Now does support auth 2.0. But before it did, you could only send via SMTP, and that was something that Google, I think, finally did deprecate, so you can't actually do that anymore using that Google SMTP settings. So I found a nice little kind of packaged test file that was created by Seed Code. And I'm just jumping ahead here just to kind of give some credit where credit is due. So Seed Code and DB Services had kind of worked together to build what is essentially this add-on. All I did was make it a little bit more distributable and refine it for the purposes that we use it for our clients. So a lot of the code and like the hard work of this file, and honestly, even the natural language search file that I'll show too, was already done by somebody else. I'm just like helping kind of pass this information along, make it distributable, and help other developers get access to it and start implementing those into their solutions. So for this particular one, if I can just jump back to my contacts detail, we're just going to pop this add-on on. So for those of you who aren't as familiar with add-ons, it is unfortunate. I'm going to skip some of the add-on installation that Wolfpack actually really does help do that. I have certainly made that my choice application for installing add-ons rather than do it myself. So I'm sure, Christian, you have documentation somewhere on how to actually do that. But in terms of installing them, once
Yeah,
they get
real quick on that. If you guys do download
yeah.
Wolfpack, there's an information thing on the front screen that'll show you the basics of how you would install any add-on. So we're kind of assuming most people at this point have seen some of those things, but if you haven't, you can check out the video on there and how to do that.
Yeah, and so once you're at that point, you have your add-on already installed in FileMaker, you've restarted and all that stuff. Just adding it here is as easy as drag and drop. And both of these add-ons today that we're talking about, the send via Gmail as well as the natural language search, should have an object that comes out. As you just saw, I tried to drag it out and the object didn't populate. I'm not sure why this is the case. Maybe this is a bug in a newer version of FileMaker. I say that lightly, so don't come swatting at me, Claris maybe. But I found that if I drag it onto an object, it doesn't create the new object. So you kind of have to like drag it to a space where there is no object. At least that's how I've had some success. So once you have your object there,
and that's not just yours, Jonathan. I've been seeing the drag issue start up a few versions back in FileMaker. A lot of times I'll even just drag mine off screen because it's an open area, because I've had it do issues in certain spots in the layout.
Yep. So I'm not sure why it does that. Hopefully that gets patched if it is a bug, and we'll move from there. But in both cases, there in Wolfpack, there are instructions forthcoming on both of these add-ons, but for now, I've hopefully made this straightforward enough just by actually clicking the button and trying to run the thing. So what does this button do? It runs a send via Gmail script that we have created, and then it sends this information off. I'm going to put some real information in here so we actually get an email that gets sent, and that way we can test this and prove it. But once you click it, it will take us to that credits page that I showed. It's really a get started page, just kind of telling you what this is used for. So our main use for this is this send via email script. And there are a lot more components that are available to this application where you can actually like track all the emails you've sent, and you could even track the threads, and then you could start bringing in incoming emails too. I know Seed Code took this sample file a bit further than where I kind of hopped off of it. So there's a few more layouts and things that I won't go over today. Just know those things were kind of built for someone else's purposes. I'm just kind of co-op them in order to get this through. So what we'll walk through is just the authentication process of doing this. And we do have steps of walking through the Google Developer Console. I've had Christian test this and kind of approve that these instructions are good enough to follow. So I'll trust that you all can do that and instead just put in the information that I need. So I am using a text expander, which if nobody else is using one, I definitely recommend getting your hands on one that you like and one that works. Essentially, I mean, everybody has a text expander in their OS, but in this case, this lets you type. It can kind of like put the cursor where you need it to be. You can package like really big blocks of content. Even for coding, I find it to be really useful to autofill information. It's also really great for, I'm not sure how secure it is for hiding your keys in it, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but for a demo, it's really great because I don't have to have clipboard being managed. So
what's the name of this text expander app you use?
This one is called Atext. I used to use Typinator quite a bit, which is, I think, the Mac favorite. Yeah. So, but Atext allows you to share your expansions across OSs. So, like, if you're working with somebody who uses a Windows, shout out to Reliance, you can share your snippets to that Windows user. And
not to go off topic, but is Atext spelled the way that it sounds? A-text?
Yeah, it is like A and then text. So, and it is kind of a super sketchy website to where you will buy it and all that. I think they're updating it or have been updating it. I know when I got it like many years ago, it was like, I don't know if I should do this. And turns out it was just one of the top rated ones on like some like top expanders list.
Well, if people download it and like it, tell people you heard that at the live stream, and if it's sketchy and you lose your money, Jonathan from we'll send you to Jonathan.
Yeah. Just forward the emails to me. Spam at acolyteapplications.net. That would be great. Anyway, you'll probably see a more typical login. I've already done this login, so I'm just kind of hopping through the steps here and hitting allow and all the things. It should be pretty straightforward. And then once it's done, you should see that this is all loaded up, and we'll send our email off, and everyone can trust that email got sent. But just for the sake of proving it, let me pull this open.
Jonathan, while you pull that, I want to chime in just slightly because we do have developers from across the spectrum here. So I'm going to assume that everybody or most people watching have done some sort of email command out of FileMaker. And for years and years and years, you do what Jonathan had said with the SMTP. You just put in your password, the SMTP server, fairly easy to set up. But as many of you probably figured out, that is starting to go away, especially with Gmail. Like Jonathan said, it's gone. And so this add-on allows you to send via the OAuth a lot easier. And even though FileMaker or Claris has added a command for it, some of our engineers are still having problems figuring out how to set it up. I was able to walk through this add-on and send using the OAuth within 15 minutes. Barring you have to have a couple other precursory things set up, but it was very easy to get going.
Yeah. So just to review, this is the area where you can control those SMTP settings or how you want to send those. So like I said, OAuth is supported and Google is one of the providers. So this is a newer version in the last couple or a newer feature in the last couple versions of FileMaker that is available. So you can go this route if you want. The other route that this add-on then offers, just to back out of all this so I don't break anything, is to indeed use Google to send those emails. And so just jumping to our home, which is going to show us a list of emails that have been sent, you can actually, sync this up to a singular email and kind of on a roadmap of like where this add-on could go is to allow you to authenticate like multiple emails in here, and then you can kind of pick which one you want to run for the server-side process. So like I said, a lot of this code, and I'm going to jump down for those who aren't familiar with what happens in an add-on, scripts, tables, layouts, etc., custom functions, anything that was in that add-on will get added to your file. And so here for this FM2 Gmail folder is where all of your scripts will be. And you'll see I've tried my best to provide credit where credit's due on who created these various components. So seed code kind of doing a lot of the processing and sending, as well as DB services doing the authentication. And then I just have really this main script here for processing the JSON of the content of whatever your email is. It kind of packages those things in, creates your email, and then runs the send button, which I'll show that layout for, which is right here. So
Jonathan, once you're done with the configuration, you can basically put this button where you want and pass the credentials that correspond to the record or whatnot that you're on.
Yeah, that's right. And really the button was added by your request, since you were like, it's really nice to have an object. And so in our purposes, we often use this for server-side scripting, and we're really only referencing this script here. So we have a server-side script, does a bunch of stuff, and then at the very end, it has a perform script, and it performs this script with the parameters spelled out of who this email is going to, what's on it, a couple attachments if you need to send those, and it gets sent off. We don't actually have something like this, which is what most like FileMaker email builders might look like, where you have a place where you can edit, put your email in CC, and actually type, information. And then I don't know why you would just type information into an email, but there you go, and then hit send with a physical button. Or in this case, it's mostly leaning virtual use for us, but wanted to provide that button there on our context layout just to show it off. So in a nutshell, that's all the time I really wanted to spend on this.
Real quick though, Jonathan, I was going to answer this in Discord, but I'll let you do it. It's an easy one. Okay. I think it's David Angel, one of our regulars, was asking, will this work for non-Gmail accounts that are hosted with Gmail?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if you have, if it's a non-Gmail account and you're able to get access to the developer console and create an API service for your email.
I may have phrased that wrong. You can. So like I'm using my RCC email for this because we host Gmail is our hoster, if you will. So like Jonathan said, you just need to be able to get into the developer console there. So if you log into Gmail's website, David, you should be able to set this up. You do need a business account. That was the one kind of caveat that I ran into, I think, in order to have access to some of the developer features that are in there.
Okay. Yeah, that probably lines up. In my case, I'm installing this for organizations and then even for our own business. And believe it or not, most of the installs for these have been Gmail. So I think it's like its usage is obviously pretty vast amongst businesses. So that's where the utility of it really just came in handy for us, is that like we use Gmail, a lot of our clients use Gmail. So yeah, it's good to hear that it does support those external, as long as you do have the right credentials to get into them. So great. Well, that's that. Do play around with it. I do just caution, if you delve into like these further areas, you might be playing with fire. And this probably, of these two add-ons I'm sharing today, this is like the least clean one. So always hope to like clean this up and get it a little bit more packageable. But I wanted to allow some of that existing code to reside in the add-on, just to kind of give thanks to Seed Code and DB Services for the work they did and how they took the file in the direction that they wanted to go. So with that,
and as brief as this was, for those of you who aren't code junkies, you haven't done OAuth with an API, this could be a real lifesaver for you if you have a client that's using Gmail to send, because it allows you to kind of get past the hard stuff real easy. Thanks, Jonathan. I'm really excited for this next one.
Yeah, and that's exactly the intent behind both of these, is like to kind of cut corners in terms of like building all these integrations from scratch. Like anybody who has started with the API from the bottom knows, like, oh my goodness, there's so much to work through, from authentication to getting the calls perfectly right, to serving the payloads the right way as a parameter, and to have some of that stuff prepackaged for you, where you're just really walking through the authentication step by step. That's really the goal behind both of these. So I probably should have mentioned this at the top. I'll mention it again at the end. But if anybody does have feedback on either of these add-ons, you can feel free to email us at hi@acolyteapplications.net. So that is hi@acolyteapplications.net. If this is recorded, you'll probably see that email go up in the previous part, where that's the email I sent to myself. So you can just pause the video then and get it, or go to our website. That would be even better. So without further ado, then let's get to the cool stuff that everybody's probably waiting for, and that's this natural language search. So again, just choosing this add-on to install it, and I'm choosing to install it like fresh. So everybody knows that this is not, it's a little staged, but it's not super staged, in the sense that, yes, I did pre-populate this file with some sample data, and I have been tinkering with it in terms of just seeing how the search works well on this file, and what are some problems that we can show off for the demo. But other than that, some of the searches we'll do today, I will have never done before. So we'll see if they actually work or not. So I'm going to drag our add-on on. And while I do that, I also will give some credit to, yeah, it just like wants to jump where it wants to jump, and then doesn't. But I'll give some credit to Ronnie Rios. So again, just like the send via Gmail add-on, this add-on was a file that was provided by Ronnie Rios during the Claris Engage conference. This was demoed during his keynote session briefly, and then also on the first training day, the first session day. He did a whole demo of I think about 4 different files, and this one being the natural language search file. Allows you to use natural language to then perform a find in your system. So the idea is, you would say, find me all the contacts who have a D in their first name, for instance. So we would say, find contacts with a D in the first name. Not very useful for a business case, but it would be something we could search for, and then we're immediately hit with setup. So got to go in order when you're demoing these things. So thanks y'all for that reminder. But this one should prove a little bit easier than the Google auth. All you need is an open AI key. So if you don't have that, you can click this link, and it is going to go ahead and open up the OpenAI website, the platform OpenAI, where you can actually see. Let me just. I don't want to reveal my keys, but it will open up your OpenAI API area where you can then click through and add keys, API keys, and add one for usage. And then all you need to do is punch that key in. So again, expanding for it there.
You didn't want to share your key with all of us today?
I didn't want to share the key with everyone. Believe it or not, it costs every time you run a search. So that's a really good touch point here at the beginning. So once you do have this key enabled, every single time you run the script, it is going to hit your API and you will be charged for that. It's not a copious amount of money per run, and it does matter which model you choose. Some of that stuff we can kind of get into as we go, but just something to know, like this. This add-on is easy to chuck into a file, but there is some costs that does come with this one in particular. For the Gmail one, obviously you're paying for your Gmail in some way, or your employer is to some degree. So, again, just a big thanks to Ronnie Rios for creating this file. I know I'm kind of hopping around a little bit here, but his intent really was to share this technology with the Claris community. And so us having the opportunity to turn this into an add-on and kind of refine it, again, just so it's distributable. So anybody hypothetically could take this add-on, drop this object into their file and get it working is the goal. And for the most part, we'll see if that works. So we'll jump out here.
I want to chime in on that a little bit there, Jonathan. I don't know if you're aware of it, but some of the original add-ons I made, some were mine, like purely my code. Several of them were demo files that had been around for a long time that I used often. But like you said, I wanted to make it easier to share it and to install it. So I always went to the creators to ask for approval. But I think that's one of the cool things with these add-ons. Ronnie wanted to get this in the hands of people and he wanted to see how they were using it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with us taking that, giving credit, and spreading that access. Because for all we know, someone's going to take your add-on and maybe add something even cooler to it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the real beauties of Wolfpack in that it is completely open source. I know you kind of alluded to some security questions earlier on people just getting access to these add-ons, maybe stuff being in them that's not great. But to be able to actually get the file yourself and like look at it first before you start chucking this thing into solutions is pretty awesome. And I'm always kind of nervous, just like dragging all of this context and an entire app into your solution. You have no idea what it is, what buttons will do what. I always like to kind of look at that stuff, and Wolfpack gives you that opportunity to look at that before you actually pull the file in, and then also, even take that file and edit it yourself. So that's obviously a huge benefit to using Wolfpack, and we're just going to keep tooting the Christian's horn on making that thing. So good job.
Thank you, Jonathan.
That concludes our show today. Thanks, everybody. Just kidding. So I got Margaret to laugh, so I'll take that as a big win. Things are going just fantastic. So here we can see we did do a quick search here that is probably got no business use really for anybody. I don't know if it's any more beneficial than just like searching for Dorothy or putting the D in there. So let's maybe step it up and say something like find contacts with a fax type note, and we do search. And then now we can see here are our list of notes here, and we see Phyllis has one, Claiborne also has a fax note, and as we go through, we should see each of these have a fax type note.
So just to slow down there real quick, and because I think I see what you're talking about. So you basically asked it to find any contacts that have a note that has fax in the note, or the type is fax.
Yeah, is in the type field here. So and that specificity is slightly elusive in that like sometimes it knows, sometimes it doesn't. So for instance, here I say find contacts with a fax note. So I give it a little less context, and we're going to find that there are no records. So this translation will be something we get into. It's kind of more of a caveat of like, okay, like how do we have to refine this, and how can we provide more context to the LLM so that it knows, oh, when you say something more generic, like just a fax note, I actually mean a type note. And that's probably going to require quite a bit more work on the developer to fine tune this for, and that's technically not the right word, but I guess I'll say refine this script for it to work. Fine tuning kind of has its own meaning in AI and working with LMs at this point, so that I'll try to stay away from that, but I'll do my best. Here, just easy example to see, okay, whoa, what did this do? It somehow did a search on our fax type notes. We can go ahead and, whoops, looks like it is behaving strangely. Let's see if I can get it to go again here. Okay, there we go. We can actually modify our last find, and we should see, there we go, type fax is in there. It actually put it in the field in the portal rather than over here, because this is probably a display instance. But let's go over what exactly happened. So it took our message and translated it into that find we just displayed here in our modified find. And how did it do that? The key to this add-on is really, really small. There's not a ton to it. I tried to make it as lightweight as possible. There are no layouts that come with it other than that authentication card window that popped up that asks for your key. Otherwise, there is, I think, just one custom function here, this NLS. Everything should be abbreviated with NLS2, just as a programming note.
I was really surprised by how few scripts there were that drive this powerful tool.
Yeah, just 3 scripts, and then just one table as well. So just kind of giving a broad view of, okay, if you pull this thing into your file, how much stuff are you bringing? You know, here's our Gmail one, and then here is our natural language search over here. Just one table, just 3 fields for our API key, some functionality, and then this is actually the search field that you type that prompt into. So all the magic really does happen here in this submit find. So this will run as soon as you step out of your field. So, you know, clicking in, coming out, it actually is running and doing that find as you take that action. And you can hit enter or return to jump out of there. And here is kind of the broad overview of what it's doing. So it's taking your search instructions that you provided, your natural language. It is sending that off to the LLM with some instructions to the LLM to, you know, understand how to address or respond to the prompt that you provided, and then parses those response, and the response it is expecting is a particular JSON block that kind of sets things up to then run a programmatic find script. So the JSON response there, it should be something that's like, here's your table name, here's your field name, here's the value you need to search on, and there might be multiple fields and multiple values.
Could you show us the response maybe formatted for the search that you did?
Thank you, Christian. I was about to ask for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So another thing that is great about something that Ronnie put in here was that there is a last find request that does get put in here. So this last find request will always be whatever that response is from the LLM of what it had returned from your prompt. So here, you know, we see.
Could you format that just to make it easy for people to read real quick?
Yeah, sure. Does it need to be bigger then?
No. Could you just wrap like JSON format element around the last result?
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah.
I just want to be considerate to all of our levels of users.
Yeah, absolutely. So here, just seeing that JSON block, then, and like I said, field name, table name, value. So this is these two things get concatenated with your, double colon in between them and put into a set field by name within the value being the value that that field will get set to. And it performs that find as we'll step into. So let's keep moving through our scripts. Let's just jump through, since we looked at our response, let's jump to that one. So this is all the way down here. We've got our response from here, and we jump into our programmatic find, and we see here a loop. After we enter find mode, so it's initialization of our variables, parameters, whatnot, just to get that. Again, a lot of this stuff is credit to Ronnie Rios. I really just took this stuff and pass it along to you all and in this package. But it'll just loop through all of these field names, set them by name, as I said, and then set that value in there as well. So, and then there's, it does have some ability to also adjust the search type is how it's labeled here, and that just being whether it's a constrain or an extend of the found set. Those keywords I found are very particular. We can get into that when we get into how the LLM is instructed, but just know that those capabilities are there. So you could actually say like, oh, you have a found set, and then you say, reduce this to these certain records for whatever reason, and it would know to constrain or extend. You would actually need to say constrain though. So even there, I said reduce, and it doesn't know what reduce means in that sense. So that's something we can clean up. So that's really the second half. Once you have your results all the way down to running that programmatic find from that JSON block that we just looked at. So where does all the magic come in translating our natural language into that JSON of set field with this value? All that happens here in our send to LLM, and really, it's really just this 4 script steps, including a comment here to pass this prompt over. So really up here, we're just kind of setting everything up to get our API key, getting our URL all set up. Again, huge credit to Ronnie. I'm just going to punch, like, I wish there was a button you all could hit that's just like, give it up for Ronnie. Instead of me having to say it the whole time. But really, for him to provide this to community, I think is really amazing, because this is something we would all have to build on our own, as we alluded to earlier on the send via Gmail, and to have this much of a jump on those things, I think is going to be a huge benefit to everyone.
I even just like the inspiration, because I've been wanting to use this AI for a while, but it was like, how should we use it? I thought this was a really great one. It looks like you're about to key in on it, but one of the things I was hoping you could show us too, Jonathan, that I talked about a little bit of Gauge, is how does it get the schema? Like, how does it know that you have that relationships table and whatnot? Or sorry, the notes table.
Yeah, so the key, if we can zoom in, we've zoomed into just one block here. The rest of this is it's really just posturing your payload up for this insert for URL, and then checking to make sure there was a result. But here we're actually engineering our prompt. And I'm going to go ahead and open this up. One thing I did do that kind of step further than what Ronnie had set up is I tore the prompt that he had engineered and put it into it. He had it in a text field in JSON. It was JSON delimited. It was really hard to edit and read. So I took it and threw it into just an insert text script. There might be even a better way to do this as we keep refining and refactoring this. But here, just kind of as natural as a human could read this, we see a prompt that includes instructions, constraints, and examples. We're venturing into, in terms of AI, what is called prompt engineering, and creating a prompt template to send off to your LLM to then basically prepare it for whatever instruction or whatever content you're going to send it to that it needs to respond to. So the content in this case is a natural language that someone wants to use for a search. This is the prompt template then that the LLM is going to run that string of natural language against to then get that JSON schema find back. So how does this work? So first, we have our first block of instructions, which this is essentially, it's also been referred to as system persona or a data dictionary, just something to, and I have to pause here again and just say thanks to Chris Ippolite for giving me a lot of terminology that I never had before. He also did a fantastic session at Claris Engage on these things. So I highly recommend, if anybody has the recordings or is waiting for those, Chris and Ronnie, those two sessions would be a great watch for anybody who wasn't able to be there live. And then even for me as a rewatch, I'll definitely check them out again. So here, really just, again, a lot of this stuff borrowed straight from Ronnie's files. So you're acting as a smart find system for a CRM app built in FileMaker. You'll interpret the user's search description and return a search criteria in JSON. So like as plain of language as you can write to tell the LLM what to do is kind of the best way to go. The way I've heard it that really helped me start thinking about it constructively is, just pretend like you're going to hand this off to somebody else to do manually, whatever task it might be. And what would you tell them? So if you use Asana, whatever, if you use Atlassian, whatever ticketing system you use, like however you would write up that ticket for someone to do that work, that's kind of the way that you would want to talk to your LLM and tell it what to do. Of course, you'll expand on it and go a bit further. So here, in this case, we're asking it to return it in JSON and in a JSON object. And you can see here, we actually specify what that schema is. So in this sense, it's like, it's going to feel like, wow, this is like really, this is all really staged. And like, you're basically staging the LLM to return exactly what you want. And as much as you can do that while allowing it to remain dynamic, I highly recommend you to get that much in because it will only, it's just like anybody who's a seasoned developer, and especially those who are unseasoned developer, they know how particular FileMaker can be with like functions or like where is that semicolon, where's that thing. And so in the same way, you'll find that AI can sometimes be a bit unforgiving in that it's just not super accurate or as accurate as it would be if you don't give it more information. So here we see a little substitute block for the JSON schema. And again, this was all in a super tucked JSON block. And so what I did again was put this in just a following script step here. This could technically be in the same insert text, but I just thought it was like way too big. And if you wanted to edit it, you could. But what this effectively is, and anybody who has played with the custom connectors on Claris Connect, they'll see, oh, this kind of looks familiar. This looks like, something just like that. And in a sense, it is the same thing. You're kind of crafting what that JSON response should be. So, here's your field name. There's its description or what type of object is it going to be. And stepping up into another menu, you see properties, and stepping back down, table name and value. So these are the three the three key value pairs that we saw. Field name with the field name, table name with the table name, and then value with whatever that search value was, and the description there. So
Jonathan, if people download this, are they going to need to come in and edit this, or this would be somewhere you'd only edit if you're doing some pretty high level kind of changes with it?
The latter for sure. Like this is the, and this is also a good good reason for my separation of this from the rest of the prompt. My expectation is probably want to keep this the same. You may want to change it if you go fiddling around with our other script here for the programmatic find. Say you want your, I want it to return just instead of table name and field name, I want it to just return, table and field name. Then you could do that for whatever reason. Maybe you already have a programmatic find script that you just want to plug into this and refactor some of this. That would be a reason for. But yeah, very good call out, and a very good reason for kind of separating those things, because the rest of this might be where you need to actually change some of this. So then moving on from our schema there, I know it's a lot to take in there, especially for newer beginners. This is a lot to digest, but as Christian said, in some ways, like just, leave it, let it lay, and just kind of punch in your information and keep going. And I hope to get to the parts that are really like the place where we're going to modify this stuff the most, which will be toward the bottom here.
So if I understand right, from our run-of-the-mill people, leave it as is. As you start to get better, maybe you want to understand what's going on. This gives you a better peek and especially that other insert lets you kind of understand what's going on there.
Yeah, that's right. And to some extent, though, I will say everyone probably will need to come in here as you install this into your app and modify this prompt. So instead of, customizing, this whole natural language search, really all you need to do is come in here and customize this prompt for your FileMaker file. And we'll demo that as we keep moving through here. So I think the rest of these will move pretty quickly. So this is just a list of all of the find rules in FileMaker. So really just a list of those symbols and how they can be used. So, if you use equal sign, it's finding records with an empty value, double equals, matching that value entirely, and so on and so forth. So, of course, an LLM might be able to find this stuff online and know what it is. But I found, and I actually added this line when I was finding find invoices that don't have a date paid yet. It would just put nothing into the date paid field, or it would put like null, and it didn't know that equals was the operator for FileMaker to put those in. So I said symbols, operator is probably the proper word here. So just a list of those FileMaker find operators for the LLM to know, just as you would when you were probably starting as a FileMaker developer, like, oh, wow, there's like a whole list of these operators that you can actually see in find mode, and then like put them in and use them and find things in not super weird ways that you might have tried when you were a novice developer like myself. So moving along then, we move to the next section, which is constraints. So this is all the things that in the instructions that we want this LLM to do. The constraints then are kind of more the negative. Here are limits to the capabilities of this LLM, things that we do not want it to do in that case. So, or things that we need it to be limited to. So the first one here, and this was, I think, alluded to earlier in one of your questions, Christian, about, how does it know what context we're dealing with? Like, how does it know the relationship graph? And maybe how does it know your data? Might be a question too. In that sense, I want to alleviate everyone's concerns. It doesn't know your relationships. It doesn't know any of your data, and it doesn't know anything about data about your personal relationships either. So you can all rest easy. Your texts are not being read as you're using this add-on. And all it's doing is instead sending a list of field names in this file from that custom function that I mentioned at the very top, just looking at what this pulls in. So if I pull up our data viewer and pull up that custom function, we'll see this NLS get layout fields. And this is similar to, it's really just like an an edited version of the get field names, maybe with get file name. Oh goodness, I should know what this is. Get.
I think it is just like get field names or just do field names. No get.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
I was using
names.
this last week, so I should know it.
Yeah, right. I was using it to edit this too. So so here, yeah, just from your current file and your layout name. So those things are already punched in. And then what it does additionally is it actually adds the current context table occurrence onto the field names in our current context. So that's something that the field names doesn't do. It only provides the table occurrence for related tables rather than the current context of the layout you're on. So this was massaged a little into a custom function so that we get all of those. So again, it doesn't know anything about the connections between these table occurrences. It just knows here are all the fields on this layout.
That's really neat. So kind of like with the data API, would it almost be worthwhile having specific layouts that you go to when it does the find to give it kind of constrained context, or not really?
That's a fantastic question. Yeah, and that's in our road a road ahead, and like what we might add to this. And so right now, all you can do is like take this find, pop over, and shove it on a menu. But moving more in a universal term for this add-on would be, you can just put this anywhere, and you would say find contacts for the fax type note, and it would know to come all the way to this contacts layout, and then perform the find there, get the field, get all the field names on that layout, and do that. Of course, it's going to require a little bit more massaging in our prompt template, but if there's a way to make that much more flexible, that's something that's on our roadmap for sure, to move it that direction. But for now, it being kind of wherever you put it, it's just looking at that current context. We see here it's specifying here are the currently available fields as formatted with their table name, field name, and further after that long list, you must only respond with the table name and field name combinations as they appear above. So again, this is a constraint to just tell the LLM, all right, somebody put in natural language. Here is a list of fields and tables that you can use. You can only use the combinations where they're actually connected. So, because it wouldn't be useful to grab a table and a field name that aren't even together, fields that aren't even in that table. But then also you need to respond with the whole, the whole block, or with both of them, so that you actually get something you can find. And then additionally, another search or another constraint just here, glossing over this one, is some date formatting. Anybody who knows, if you have tried to search on a date without specifying the year, it will just always default FileMaker to the current year. So oftentimes when it was just, if you would search like, show me, I think, find all records in July, it would look for it would just look for this 7/7. And then FileMaker would automatically put a 24 there, and it would obviously not work. So, or at least not find the records you were expecting. So this just one line kind of goes to show, like, here's just a line with kind of precise FileMaker knowledge that's been added to our constraints. And the LLM then now is behaving properly and actually performing these finds. Okay, so lastly, to kind of wrap up our boring talk of how the heck is this thing working and all the nitty gritty, the last section here is a set of examples, or here it's kind of known as like single shot or double shot. This is like a lot of shot here, maybe. And it's essentially just priming your system or your LLM with some previous some example searches in this case, or whatever example content, and then the response that you would be expecting. So oftentimes these, sorry, let me back up. The way that this was presented previously in the files as they were provided from Ronnie, these were actually additional messages in your conversation rather than like one-shot examples within the prompt itself. And so the way that the LLM was reading them was that like these were previous like messages in your conversation that you were having with the LLM, and here it's all within this one big instruction prompt to say like, you're an LLM that acts this way. Here are some examples in the past or that you should follow to do that. And this is where really the power on adjusting for context comes into play. So of course we have those list of fields that come in, but this is where if everybody's zoned out, if you're like, okay, this is way over my head, I don't know even how to format JSON and how this stuff works, this is the primary space where you can edit one of these lines or copy and paste them in order to get this to work for your system. So let's take a look at what that looks like in a live example. So here I have a prompt. Let me pull up my notes, move stuff out of the way. I did stage this, so thank you all. I had to find something that would not work in the search. So here we're going to search for all contacts with the invoice over 17,000, just generic. And we're going to do the find, and we're going to find there's no records, which is kind of crazy. And let's just like make sure that there should be some here. Okay, there we go. So it looks like we do have one here. Phyllis has an invoice over 70,000. Maybe there's a couple more. We know there's at least one. So we should be able to do this fine. Maybe the LLM's just like misbehaving, so you can always try it again and see what happens. Okay, it's surely not working. So what do we do? First, I would recommend let's check the data viewer and look at what it did. So, whoops, sorry, get layout fields. By looking at our last find request variable, again, this is always going to run every time. And we see our table name here as has been maybe cut off. So the actual table name here in question, just to show everyone looking at our layout. So we're on our invoices here. We go to our layout. We see contacts / invoices and then pipe ID contact pipe. So the way that this, quote unquote, knows your tables is really just by what's been provided. So this is partially a little aggravating to me because we've told the LLM at this point, hey, only respond with table names that we provided in our list of fields. That's clearly not a table name because there's a pipe or whatever. And for whatever reason, it's not working. It didn't see those exactly. So I don't know. Maybe I need to tell it again. But again, I put it down here. So I'm like, why is it not listening? Like you must only return with the table names as they appear from the available fields. So I'll keep refining this as I can. If anybody else finds a faster or a more precise way of putting it to the LLM so that they don't do this sort of thing, that would be awesome. And I'd be more than open to that. But for now, what I will do is type in a fix here to just add another line here. So you could just as easily have copied and pasted this. And this is definitely going to feel like, okay, you're just like totally manufacturing this so that it works for your purpose. And I'm like, that's precisely what we do as custom app developers. Like we're like building an application to be, completely custom to the workflows that our clients are using. And so too, like with AI, that's what we're aiming for. We're going to, manufacture this so that it works precisely how it should in this example. And the idea is to do that enough until you don't have to do it anymore. So you essentially, keep working your way, not fine-tuning, refining this prompt until it starts to understand, oh, okay, this is how this application is created and generated. So we added that to our prompt. We're going to save our script, and then we're going to come in and
so
run
John, if I may
find,
too, it seems like one of the bonuses to these files from Ronnie and what you've done is for those who are maybe looking at or starting to experiment with these LMLs, it's a template to what some of these prompts should look like. One of the things I think is really fascinating about this is that we're all kind of learning in real time how to make these prompts and what's most effective.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And some of my collaborators probably would be blushing or embarrassed. I'm not sure which one on the prompt template that I have provided here. That there's not enough. There's not more. We could talk like for a whole another hour on what you could put in here for it to know that, for it to know everything about your database, like know the purpose of every table, the purpose of every field, all that stuff. As somebody providing an add-on, you can't really put all that stuff for somebody else's system in there. So that's going to come where, it's going to be your use case and you'll have to know. So just
quite a lot though for that expensive
back.
Price of free.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So there you go. I hope it's good enough. So just adding that one line, that one more shot example there for the LLM. Now we are finding those with that value. And you'll say, okay, well, what do we have to do this for every field then? But the idea is, again, you're tweaking it just enough to know the essential amount that it needs to then begin to kind of do this on itself. So all contacts with an invoice, then well, it just changes to canceled invoice. And I think there's 2 L's. And we should see this now. Did our find? We'll look at our data viewer to look at that last find just to make sure it's working right. And sure enough, it did get our table name right. But it was a different field. So you can see we put that one shot example in there. It didn't have this field in it, it had a different field, but the LLM was dynamic enough to know, oh, okay, we're searching on a different field now. Let's change our behavior and change it that way. So like I said, there's a lot more that I could dive into. I'm sure there's some Q&A that we should probably turn to at this point. But I hope everybody finds this useful and is able to, start working this into your app. We're going to keep refining this add-on to make it, more and more useful, especially for different naming conventions. Those that are more ubiquitous than others. If you're just an in-house developer and you have your own naming convention that you made after reading your favorite science fiction novel, we probably won't change the LLM to adapt for that specifically. But typical anchor and buoy systems, that's like probably the biggest caveat, that this LLM does not know your naming conventions without you telling it to them. So any naming in terms of your table names, in terms of your field names, and in terms of like your values that you put into here, for the most part, it'll just kind of parrot whatever you put in there as a value. But those things all will have an impact on the utility of this find. And I want to just say, caution everyone, the first time you put this thing in, you're going to do a find and it's not going to work. And it's not the end of the world. You're probably just like 1 or 2 sentences away from getting it to work by adjusting that prompt as we looked at. So
one of the things I like, I'm just going to chime in here for a second, Jonathan, that I like that you're doing with this is outside of the FileMaker community, as I've talked to friends and family about AI and Chat GPT, I feel like I run into 2 groups that they're missing the marks, but they're the 2 main people I talk to. One group thinks that this AI is essentially the smartest human being out there, and you ask it things and it gives you exactly what it wants. And then you have another group that actually goes and use it and they say, this is stupid, it's worthless. And I think you're showing us that nice threading of the needle that it's a tool. And Beverly's last comment in Discord is really, really key here, that we're all kind of learning how to best make these prompts to utilize this tool in its best ability, because it isn't a human being that is incredibly smart. But with some fine tuning, we're able to do a search that we otherwise couldn't. For years, I've had clients that have asked me, can't I just put, I want to find all the invoices over this and have it give that back to me? They don't want to learn how to do the FileMaker searches. And I think this is really neat. But yeah, it sounds like you're probably gonna have to learn how to communicate with this LML, and there's a little bit of a learning curve there. Is that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I appreciate you bringing it back to like what's the intent, what's the purpose, and what's the value behind this add-on altogether, and utilizing AI. And that's to help us and help our users be able to navigate their system better. And so anybody who has tried to train any level of user how to use the FileMaker finds here and all the different operators and these things, omit versus include. You know, it took me 3 years before I figured out how that even worked. And so we, in some ways, put a lot of pressure on our clients to kind of figure this stuff out, whether we train them or not. This hopefully is a shortcut to provide them a way to, you know, talk the way they talk, and then have the systems do the heavy lifting for them. Of course, there are going to be limits. There are going to be, you know, a certain specificity that you will need to reach to get it. But the value here for sure is, you know, just taking it easy with your finds now, and helping your users take it a little bit easier to get their information and move forward. So
I have a quick question, which might be a dumb question. Can it handle multiple find requests? Like if you say, hey, I know I just searched for California, but I want you to keep the California search and also search for Texas.
Yeah, yep, it can. So in this case, well, let's try it. So we found all contacts with canceled invoice. So we'd say expand to all contacts with an active invoice, and it's gonna be hard to see what actually happened. We did see our found set grow, but maybe
I just saw the record count go up by about 100. So
yeah, but maybe it just found all invoices that are active. So you know, the key is always to check you know, your receipts, and we'll see what our last find request was, and we see oh well, it didn't actually do it.
When you still had some canceled in that one portal.
Yeah, I did still have some canceled, but it's a related table, so there's some active, and this actually didn't work. It did just do a find on all those that were active as well, and the reason is because this is really picky on what it's expecting. So it's not expecting expand, but extend.
Does it extend?
Because that's what it literally is in FileMaker. So we say extend to canceled, and we should see even a bigger found set if this works. Show up, hopefully. There we go, 303. And then again, check our receipts here. And then we see.
And I imagine, Jonathan, with some fine tuning, we could teach it that expand is the same as extend. But we'd have to go and add that into the prompt there as an example or something.
Yep, that's exactly right. And that cool. Probably would be, yeah, maybe in the examples, or it could just be a line, you know, earlier on. So.
And I think that's one of the important things. So many people I've talked to, they're like, well, if AI is so great, why do we even need to hire engineers anymore? And the reality is that the AI doesn't just magically do those things. You still need programmers to kind of come in and add that translation to it. But look at that. Now a person doesn't have to go click the find and know the operators. I don't think any of my clients know how to do extend found set. And you can use regular language to get something that they want.
Yep, absolutely.
I don't want to totally go off into my questions only, but I did have one, and this might be harder for you to answer, but I'm curious, as you've played around with this, have you found any words or phrases to work better or worse than others? I noticed you just gave us an example. Extend is going to work, whereas expand wasn't, but do you have any tips or tricks for people getting in there on things that you've found to be useful versus less useful?
Yeah, so this is really where the data dictionary or the system persona, the instructions that we looked at in our prompt really come into play actually explaining some of your fields. So all we do here is we just provide a list of those fields with no explanation at all. And why am I talking about all this? Because the way you name your fields, it might seem really intuitive to you, but it probably isn't very intuitive to the LLM. So it would have no clue like what date P means date paid or something like that. So in that sense, you even saw earlier in an earlier query where I said find all contacts with a fax type note, where I was actually calling out that field. Whereas if I didn't call out that field, it didn't work. So I would recommend, starting with being as literal as possible as a developer, and then, crawl it back a little and see, okay, what do I need to do to fine tune it? So if I ask for fax type notes, it says, well, if no type, if they don't specify type literally, like to know to search what
Great
those are.
example.
And
In Discord, when you're going earlier, David Angel had asked, oh, so I could ask it to show me all the people that are older than I am. And Beverly, who I want to give a big shout out, thank you for all the comments that you've added in Discord today. Really, really helpful. But she said, well, it needs to know how old you are. And then it needs to know that date of birth is their birthday, and that's what it's comparing against. So it sounds like when you're, you give it this command, but it still needs to know what that actually means.
yeah, and that's a really good call out. And to just open up this again, to say an LLM, OpenAI, whatever LLM you choose to use in this add-on, it's only OpenAI that's available for this insert through URL. But in this case, the LLM is not a database. Like, it doesn't have tons of your data. It doesn't know how old you are. Of course, they have whatever data they've been trained on. But really, in this context, the only data it has is this whole block, and then what we specified or what we sent to it in our find request. That's about it.
I've heard that you might be working on some other add-ons. I don't want to give all of them away, but Ronnie had one at Engage to do with charting. I heard from the grapevine that might be something that you're working on in the future.
Yeah, certainly. So in the short term, if anybody has any feedback on these add-ons, and again, as Christian noted, everything in Wolfpack is totally free. So like, you're able to walk away today with these add-ons, chuck them into your files tomorrow, see if they work, refine them. If anybody has any feedback or things that they found, you can certainly send an email to us at acolyteapplications.net on either of these two add-ons, whether it's a send via Gmail or the natural language search add-on. We definitely would love your feedback. And further, if we can do this, I'm not sure, I should have asked this before, but we do have a merch store, shop.acolyteapplications.net. So if you did find any of these useful and you did like them, and you do want to support us and support the add-on making fund that is our current one, jump to our merch store. You can find it from our website. Buy yourself a nice shirt, maybe this nice pack jacket. It is in our spring collection that'll be dropping next week. So
a spring collection.
Richard, merch store.
Yeah.
Where's the RCC merch store?
People have asked me about that, and it's such a funny thing because of all the stuff we do. I just don't have the hours to do that, and I'm not a designer. So yeah, there you go. You have to have some merchy stuff, right? Very good. All right.
And just to add on to what Jonathan was saying there, download these, ask questions, add on to them. I don't want people to download someone's add-on and strip away the authors and credit that should go to people. But I think Jonathan would have nothing but positive things to say if someone took this add-on and added some more to that template or found something that was useful and shared it back with us. I've always heard that JavaScript is the language built on the shoulders of giants, and I think that with this new tech here, we really have an opportunity to build on top of each other, like Jonathan did with what Ronnie gave us there, to take something and make it easier to distribute and hopefully easier for people to use.
Yeah, and I would say at this point it's really just aiming for collaboration. Like, nobody's essentially trying to profit off of these particular add-ons since they're available freely. So it's really syncing up. So there's not like a bunch of different forks of versions of this one particular natural language search. So if anybody does find things, I'd love to collaborate and make sure that we're synced up. To answer your actual question, though, yes, there are a couple more that are coming. Hopefully, I'm not sure if I'll get to the charting one anytime soon, but it is in our pipeline of something to do as well.
Depends
as,
how many jackets you sell, right?
Yeah, it depends on how much our add-on fund grows in the next couple of weeks. But
hey, Richard, I know we got to land the plane. I see the runway below us. I did see one last question in Discord, and this was a hard one to answer, Jonathan, but it's one that I definitely wanted to ask Chris Ippolite and others at Engaged. Can you give any sort of rough idea of the cost of using this? Like you said, when you make a search, there's going to be some cost there. You told me it's not like it's enormous, but is there any way to quantify what a search costs or what your monthly or annual costs are with ChatGPT using this tech?
Yeah, so it obviously is going to vary on your usage. Let me pull up. So
I appreciate DJ asking that because that's one of my prime questions. Or
yeah,
DJ,
no, that's a great question for sure. And thanks to Reed for sharing this stuff out. Let me get this up on the screen again. Okay, so it depends on what model you use. Obviously, it depends on your usage, how many times you're sending these out. But it's about somewhere around 50 cents for 1 million tokens. And
how many tokens roughly is like that search that you did?
That's a great question. I honestly have no clue.
Is it 1,000, 100,000?
Yeah, let me look at my.
To be clear, you're still in business and you're not bankrupt from your credit card, so it can't be that much. Are you? Right. I mean, let's just be clear about that. The reason he doesn't know is because it's not a big deal in his life. He probably spends more on beer and pizza than he does on this. So.
Yeah. So I've used it looks like 20 cents of the $15 I originally put in here, and I mean I'm the main user of this, just testing it, like running a handful.
And sorry, do you mean 20 cents today or 20 cents total?
Since I've been building this application, probably a month ago.
So,
but granted, I'm using it as a developer, so I'm not using it as you give this to a set of 100 users. They're all punching in, let's say 5 times.
I think that's still really helpful because that's the big thing. Yeah. I'm like, am I spending $20 a month? Am I spending $5? So I think that is helpful. Next step, was that helpful to you?
I have a question. So when they get your add-on, is your license key in there? I mean, or is it? No, I'm not listen, we have distributed solutions. Sometimes we just put our key in there because the costs were so low. We just told people if you over abuse it, we're going to shut it off. But
no, they do. They do need to get their own. Sorry,
okay.
Jonathan.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for saving that. And just again to demo that for Richard, you pop this add-on on and try to do it. It's going to automatically ask for that key. We did not provide that free of service. I can only imagine how low that would be. But hey, maybe people buy enough sweatshirts and hoodies and whatnot, then maybe I'll open up a free token for everybody.
You let me know how that goes, right? With the merchy stuff, right? So about the time I do merch, then we end up releasing like Starting Point, and I'd rather, from our perspective, do that. But if I hire another internal staff, Christian, we have a merch coordinator, the marketing department for merch. Have to ask Miles if he wants to.
I'm not saying that myself or others have been chiming in about it, but I think I've covered my bases, Jonathan. I'm really excited by this. I hope that others download this and come back and share with us what they learn. I hope that you come back. Did you have any final closing thoughts or comments on this you wanted to say today?
Nope, I think that's it. Yeah, just any feedback at hi@acolyteapplications.net. That's probably super hard to spell, so just find our website. We are on the Claris partner page. And then, if you want to support us, you can grab some merch too.
Hi, as in Hotel India, like hello, like hi, like that. Okay.
And of course, I
well,
think most of our viewers know to find us at support@rcconsulting.com. If you reach out for anything Wolfpack related, if it's something I can cover, I will. If it's for a different author, I'll very likely redirect those questions over to those various authors that we have in Wolfpack, like Jonathan.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of we do get these calls periodically, people demanding us to train them and provide free support on top of a free product. And somewhere along the line, we have to call a timeout on the field and say, hey, there's only so much free we can do. So how do I go to your website real quick? It's I do a search for.
That was the
I'll
blog.
get you
Keep
there.
scrolling down. Keep scrolling down.
Oh,
And just a note here, yeah, we do intend to extend that blog post as well to get more information. But then shop there is at the top right there, and
There
that'll
we
take you to our
go.
merch site. So there you can go with our.
I can't decide if
legacy
this looks
branding.
like if it looks like Starfleet or it looks like U.S. Space Command or if it's the
Yeah.
asteroids guy from my asteroids game. So
You're not the only one. He's come with that. So you'll see on the right hand side that all of our legacy logo there is space themed. So all of our we have quite a few funny little blurbs on all those with weird letter named number named objects there. So
all right, well, that's it for today. We've gone 90 minutes. I appreciate everyone's hard work. Jonathan Nicoletti from Acolyte, a bad operation. Visit them, buy some smirch or merch, whatever works for you. Get a cup, get a coffee, and make sure you give them a shout out. And if you're a nonprofit, is that what you're looking for, to work with nonprofits?
absolutely.
All right, cool. That's it, everyone. Jonathan, thank you.
Thank you all.